Welcome to this year's window box planting. I'm pretty sure I've shown you the planting of this window box every single year since this channel was created. And this year we're doing it a little bit different way. And this year I started by actually drawing out the dimensions of the window box on the driveway and laying my plants out in the driveway. This not only helped me visualize what was going to go in there, but I'm hoping it helps you visualize it as well, because since my window box is mounted so high on my house, it's hard, I think, for you to see what's happening there. Quick note, this window box is 72 inches wide, 14 inches deep, and 10 inches high. So there is a lot of soil volume in here. I actually had this made, custom made to be 3 inches wider than this would normally be made. And I do change out the soil in this box every year. It's the only container that I change out the soil in every single year. And I think that's because I am asking so much of the soil in this box. You'll notice, and this is actually a pretty good angle, you can see that I mount this quite low from the window. I'm able to do this because since it's mounted so high, at no point when you're standing on the ground do you see how much lower than the window it is. And because I almost always have this window box full, except for a brief period in spring from when the winter stuff comes out and the summer stuff goes in, it's almost always full. So you can almost not see that. This allows me to put taller plants in here and still be able to crack the windows open. I use a lot of Osmocote. I would use any other time release fertilizer too. I'm not loyal to Osmocote. Osmocote is very easy to get my hands on, so that's why I tend to use that. You can see I loaded up quite a bit in here. So I have to do this whole container from a step ladder, so it's a lot of up and down, which is another reason why it works really well to lay these plants out ahead of time, because that way I know exactly what I'm going to grab. So like last year, I'm starting by putting Fiona Sunrise Jasmine in the corners. And I like a plant in the corners. What I do, and I haven't done this yet, but I will go back and put in an easy peasy 3 bamboo trellis tied together in those corners, because I love to have something that grows up along the sides of the window. We have a very tall house, and I feel like that helps provide some scale to it. Now, I did try to overwinter last year's Fiona Sunrise Jasmine. They came out of winter, budded up, and then they totally died on me, so it was a complete fail. So I am starting with new Fiona Sunrise Jasmine this year. And the next thing that's going in is a Cordaline called Design Align. This is from the Southern Living Plants collection. I like this Cordaline because the leaves are a little bit more narrow. The color is a little bit more purple than red, at least in my opinion. And the leaves tend to get a little floppy with age. Little tricky thing with this window box, there is a support right in the middle of it, but fortunately that support is not full height. And so what I do is I actually split the root ball right in half, about 2/3 of the way down, and then leave the top third intact. And then I actually put that plant right over the top of that support. I've done this in the past. It works just fine. There is enough soil left there to be able to do it, and it's the only way to get a plant properly centered in this window box. And then because that Fiona Sunrise is that beautiful chartreuse color, I want to incorporate that in other ways. And so I am adding in a mini me chartreuse coleus in the back. This is a really good texture too, and not a dissimilar texture from the Fiona Sunrise actually. So we're actually echoing the texture and the color here. This should get 18 to 20 inches tall and fill in that area in between. So back in the other corner, we go back to adding in another Fiona Sunrise Jasmine, another Cordaline, and then a mini me chartreuse in between. So we're alternating color here. We're doing chartreuse and purple alternating across the back, even though it's not with all the same plants. So the next row, I decided I wanted a big block of color here. And for me, sun patience really fit the bill for this. Man, sun patience just fill up as a mass of color. At least they have for me in the past. And so I did 3 compact light coral sun patience. Compact because compact gets to be like sometimes 18 inches tall. I hope they don't get that tall here. The Vigorous gets like 2 feet tall. So be careful when you're buying them. These I clustered in the middle pretty close to each other rather than spreading them out along the length. I wanted that concentration of color in the middle. Even though I had this box laid out on the driveway, I did call a few audibles in this and added in some actually additional plants. So, and that's where I bring in this Secretia Purple Heart. This is such a good foliage plant. I really love this plant. I think it offers architecture and foliage. It does flower a little bit. I'm not concerned about the flowers. This is pure, for me, this is purely foliage. And I added in 4 of these, but I added them back a little bit because these could really take over the front of the box if I planted them right at the front. And what I'm hoping is that these will grow. I think they're prettiest when they grow through other plants. So now we're on to that front row. But because this box is extra deep, and because I have kind of pushed that Secretia and those sun patients back a little bit, I actually have a little bit of room to even stagger the plants a little bit that are going to go in this front row as well. So here's what's all going in the front. We've got 4 different plants that are going in the front. So I'm adding in a little bit of color, and this is going to go between the sun patients. This is a new Super Bells from Proven Winners this year, and this is pink grapefruit, which is a double. That to me looks like it's going to be kind of a corally pink with a little bit of lemon in it. Then the only other flowering plant in here is the Skavola Stardiva White. I also have these in pink, but I decided to go with white because sometimes I feel like bringing in an accent of white in this box helps it relate to the white window box and the white house and all of the white that is going on around it. I feel like it's just a little nod to tie in the obviously very dominant color that's going on around it. And then from there on out, we are fully foliage. The main foliage that I'm bringing in here, and this is pretty important plant in this because it provides a much needed texture contrast, and that is Plectranthus Guacamole. These plants look terrible because they went through the ringer when they first got here, because that's right before we got down into freezing temperatures, and they were well watered, and they went into the garage for a few days, and they're going to rebound just fine because Plectranthus is pretty tough, but they don't look great. And that Plectranthus is great because not only does it have that bolder foliage, it is a spiller and fairly aggressive. I mean, it might be something I even need to prune a little bit. But the leaves have chartreuse on them, and then a very dark green, and even like a little bit of purple in the stems sometimes. So we're actually bringing in all the other colors that are in here. I'm also adding in some wire vine because I am obsessed with wire vine. I can't get enough of it. I love that frothy texture. That's going to be a great contrast to that Plectranthus. Overall, this is a planter with a lot of color in it, and honestly, not that many flowers, because really the most bold flowers we're going to get are from the sun patients. We only have 2 of the Super Bells in there, and then of course we've got the Stardiva White, but this is not going to be lacking in color, certainly, because we are going to have some serious color with that coleus. Obviously, we've got the purple foliage with the Cordaline and the Secretia, and then that guacamole. Every time you plant up a container and the plants are not fully in flower, and honestly, for most of us, that's how we're buying our plants. We really have to squint and imagine what it's going to look like in the future, because what we're dealing with when we're planting it is not what it's going to look like down the road. So you really have to, kind of imagine what's going to happen there, and, have a little faith in what you're doing there. Now, I have drip running to this window box. I used to have a self-watering insert for the window box, but then I figured out drip, and drip is so much easier. So I don't have to come up here and water every day. I will fertilize, although honestly, with the exception of that Super Bells, not a lot in here needs a ton of fertilizer, and I've obviously fertilized quite a bit with the time release. So as far as low maintenance, this is probably going to be right up there. So I asked you to take a guess at how many plants we're going to go in this container, and I'm here to give you the final tally. 27. And keep in mind that 5 of those plants, the Fiona Sunrise and the 3 Cordalines, were all growing in those larger nursery pots that sometimes we call gallons but aren't really gallons. Because my season is so short, I'd rather start with a bulkier planting to begin with and be in a position where I maybe need to trim a few things or prune a few things down the line, because it's just going to look so much better earlier here. So there's this year's window box. Obviously, there will be updates coming. Make sure you're subscribed so you catch those to see how this grows in. And I hope you are having a great day in your garden. We'll see you soon.